Welcome to the Cork Creative Podcast. With this podcast, we hope to promote local creative businesses and people. I am your host, Geraldine Hennessy from Flux Learning, and today I am in the fabulous Farraige House Hotel and Gardens to chat to seaweed artists Orla and Armand from Farraige. After discovering the beauty of pressed seaweed, what began as a hobby in February 2022 has now turned into a successful craft business. Orla and Armand carefully and sustainably forage lovely specimens from the beaches of West Cork before bringing them home, cleaning them and then pressing them on watercolour paper. They revel in the impatient excitement with every reveal and the beauty of this most natural end product. In this episode, we chat to Orla and Armand about the patience required for turning a piece of nature into a piece of art, the wonders of this multifaceted yet underrated element of our coastal landscapes, and the importance of passion, giving things a go, and the support of family and friends. You're very welcome to the Cork Creative Podcast, Orla and Armand.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for inviting us.
So can you tell us a little about yourselves and how you first became involved in working with seaweed as an artistic medium? It's a very, I suppose, unique raw material.
Well, I suppose like everybody in COVID was scrolling mad on the Instagram and, you know, the those posts, the sponsored posts, one in particular was seaweed art pressings or whatever. And it immediately piqued my interest. And I just thought it was really unusual and, you know, clicked into it obviously. And I thought I could give this a go myself just as, you know, something to do and possibly as maybe gifts for friends, because I'd started sea dipping as well, of course, you know, like everybody else during COVID. And so I gave it a go. I just, like when I started, it was just with encyclopedias. That was the weight to press the seaweed onto the watercolor paper. And the results weren't too bad. Mm-hmm. One of the friends in particular that I gave it to, she was like, you know, you really should consider this as a business thing. And at the time, it was just like, not a hope, just no interest in a business. And I suppose, what was it? Maybe a year or two later, I met Armand and I happened to show him some of the pressings and he was immediately interested and wanted to know more. So I took him to a beach. I suppose it was considered a date at the time.
Oh, no.
And well, I kind of went from there.
She showed me dolls, you know, so everybody knows that, everybody sees it on the beach. But once it was on the paper, like indeed, immediately I knew there was something special there. And I said, yeah, let's do some more, of course. And after that, we started picking more species and we had the interest also on discovering the seaweed species. On and on, step by step, the horizon got a bit wider, you know. So in terms of what do we pick, etc., getting to discover just by touching on the beach and looking what we could press. Oh, that would be nice, that would be great, etc. And then on and on. After we went home, we were discovering the species as well, and we had more knowledge about what we were picking, how to pick them as well, how to press them. Yeah. That's something actually that we discovered mostly by trying. Like Orla said, the first one, we put them between cardboards in books.
Yes.
And then we got some real presses made out of wood, and then a bit like flower presses. So that was the discovery part. And then
kind of went from there then. And I suppose, you know, we got encouragement from friends and family and we did a local market in our local village last year, and that's where we really thought, okay, this could be something. Yeah, so that's kind of where everything originated.
Okay. So you produce both seaweed pressings and seaweed prints. Can you tell us a little about your products?
Yeah, sure. So the first things that we did indeed was pressings, only pressings. We foraged them on the beaches of West Cork. basically we go to the beach and we follow the tide in order to pick up the washed up seaweed.
Okay.
All the seaweed that are washed off on the shore, basically that are not on the rocks, not growing anymore. Then we take them home, we wash them, we put them in a press, and after a week or so, sometimes it's longer, they're ready. So we press them on watercolor paper. Basically, the goal when we put them in the press, it's a bit like a flower pressing. However, the big difference is that they are really wet when you put them in the press. So we have to dry them evenly, and that's the whole difficulty. Is the seaweed has to dry evenly with the paper, and we have to take care of that. So regularly we open the press, look at it. If we need to change the paper, we need to change the paper. And then the prints came after. We
would have our favorites that we, sometimes we'd get a nice surprise actually when we open the press and we're like, oh my God, this is amazing. So we have a lovely guy in Cork who was a professional scanner.
Okay.
And he would do scans of the seaweeds that we like, and we print them then ourselves on hemp paper, which is a sustainable paper. Yeah, so we kind of have like a 2022 range and a 2023.
Okay.
Our favorites from 2023. Yeah, and we've gotten great feedback as well. Like people really seem to like our choices.
Can you share some insights into the process of pressing seaweed and turning it into art? You said there about the difficulties with trying to get it to dry properly. It goes in wet, does it, into the press?
Yes. When you collect the seaweed, when it's wet but outside the water, it tends to stay in pack.
Oh, yes.
And you can't really lay it properly on the paper. So what you do, you put them in an oven tray, a shallow tray, with the paper and the seaweed together, so that it can have a shallow layer of water. So enough to have the seaweed move freely, let's say, on the paper. And then you lay it out. That's the moment when there is a bit of patience required.
Okay. This doesn't sound like something I could do.
You'd be surprised. It can actually be quite therapeutic.
Yes. It is. Like the people that we do workshop with, they find it extremely relaxing. And usually, so we start by making, explanations about the seaweeds, and they have plenty of questions. And when they start the process of pressing in that oven tray, generally there is a silence that settles.
Sounds very relaxing. Very good.
And I suppose, the other big thing is the actual drying, like getting it to dry evenly. And depending on the seaweed itself, because some seaweeds are thicker, obviously, than others. You have some that are nice and thin that will readily stick to the page, but then there's others that will require a bit longer in the press, and getting them to dry evenly can be a bit of a struggle, I suppose, sometimes. But we're kind of constantly learning,
fine-tuning the process.
Exactly. And I suppose the big thing is actually regularly changing the newspaper that we use to kind of absorb the water.
And the process are changing anyway, from time to time we notice that there is something available that could fit for this purpose or this purpose. Like we very recently, actually, we just bought some new paper to make some bigger pressings in A3 size. And this is a whole, learning journey, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay. And how long does it take to dry?
Again, depending on the seaweed, some can take a week, 2 weeks, can take up to 2 months. Again, depending if a seaweed is, again, that bit thicker, comes out a bit warped, we might re-wet it and try and get it flat. Doesn't always work.
Okay.
It's a bit of everything, actually. You have also to take into account the size of the seaweed compared to the size of the paper, because if you have a small seaweed for a big paper, generally the seaweed will not have enough strength to warp the paper. If, however, you have a seaweed that goes almost to the extremities of the paper, there is a big chance that it might warp it. Again, as Orla said, the thickness of the seaweed is something. Some also press because there is the texture of it. Some are thick, but they actually press quite good. And some are thick, but they are very hard, extremely rigid.
Is there a particular type of seaweed that works better?
I suppose definitely the flatter seaweeds. For example, I suppose red comb is a nice example. Very kind of fine filigree type leaves.
Okay.
Now this, I suppose it takes a while to when it's in the water to get it all out and the way you want it, but it does press very well once it does come out, and very, I suppose, minimal warping. And it always looks good,
Okay. You have to get it when it's just fresh out of the water, is it? So if it's anyway dried out in the beach, it's no good if it has to be kind of fresh out of the water?
You can try to wet it again. However, the result is not guaranteed.
Okay.
It's gonna be when it's dried like this, almost all the time it will break anyway.
Okay.
So
depends how dry they are, I suppose, as well. Because some things you can certainly rehydrate, and they're not too bad. But we do have our favorites. The red comb weed, yes, like Orla said, is a very good example because we love not only the color of it, but also the shape. It has all these very fine hooks all along the branches. That's really like if someone drew it for hours and hours. Like if I were to do it myself, I would spend probably days to reproduce the same little. And people do mistake it. A lot of people are like, "Oh, is this a watercolor painting?" And we're like, "Nope, it's the real pressed seaweed."
And is there particular beaches or strands that you tend to favour that produce the better seaweed?
I suppose the big beaches like in Chidani, where you'd love to find something, is always very clean. And Red Strand, like the popular beaches, where people might be like, "Oh yeah, I'd love something from there." But actually it's the smaller coves and smaller beaches where things kind of get washed up and kind of stay there with the tides. So Duneen would be a favourite beach for us. It's near Dunmore Hotel. Barry's Cove. I'm not too sure if many people know of it, but it's a gorgeous little cove near Ring in Clonakilty. Garrettstown actually is quite good. Yeah. And that's a big beach, but we found lots of nice things there. And I think the furthest we've been is kind of past Castletown Bear, a beautiful beach called Garnish.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And we had found some really lovely things there.
Oh, yeah, that was fantastic, actually. We went there only once, but it was the sound was so fine. The landscape is absolutely gorgeous. We had the best afternoon there because the location was really beautiful and of course the pastime is also beautiful.
Foraging, is great because like you're out in nature, out in the elements, and getting to experience beautiful beaches. Sure. It's our happy place, I suppose.
Very good. And what are some unique challenges or considerations when working with seaweed compared to other art materials? It's a natural product, so I'd imagine there are complications with that. You mentioned some of them there. Yeah.
Well, first, for some of the species, and it depends again, like it's also experience, but you realize that time is of the essence. So when you forage them, you have, for some of them, 12 hours to press them. Otherwise, it will leak on the paper because they're going to become spongy and they're going to start to decay very, very quickly. So that's the first thing. And to know also which ones have a tendency to decay or not. We have, for instance, again, our red comb weight, the Plocamium, is very fine, but curiously also extremely resistant to time. So that's the first thing. You have to do everything in
make sure you have the time set aside to do it.
Basically, when we do one batch, it takes a whole day. Actually, because in the morning we would go there and we stay 2 hours or more on the beach. when the time comes to press them, we have to wash them, take care of them, take out all the materials, and then press them one by one, etc. So it takes an entire day.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other challenge is the recognition of the seaweed itself on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
Like it comes also with the experience, but you have to know. We had our experience taking some of them home, and they were absolutely impossible to press. We had some that were too thick, too big. They were
impressible. Is that a word? I don't know.
There is a very good book, actually, Seaweed of Britain and Ireland, which is making you showing you a list of seaweed and describes all the different texture or how they are reproduced and everything. But we had to try everything by ourselves. It was a whole discovery journey as well for that. Is that we had to touch, we had to try, we had to make errors. It took a lot of time, actually, and during almost an entire year, we didn't really show it to anyone. We didn't sell anything, and we were just making that at home.
Making all the mistakes first.
Exactly.
So we still make mistakes, obviously.
Yeah, but that's part and parcel of it as such. Okay, and in terms of, say, like after you turn it into these art pieces, is there any issues with them lasting, or do they stay in good condition for a finite amount of time, or?
So the shape stays for sure. I suppose what we recommend with the real seaweed pressings is that our customers don't place them in direct sunlight.
Okay.
Now, again, depends totally on the seaweed, but they more than likely will change color over time.
Okay.
The green seaweeds, especially like sea lettuce and things like that, they look amazing when they're pressed first, but they can fade really, really quickly. Unfortunately. So we do make prints of those, so you'll have them forever, obviously. But unfortunately, they don't hold their color, and that's kind of with most green seaweeds.
Okay.
Whereas the reds do hold their color. Now, there will be some color change as well over time, but they can actually improve. They can, get nice pinks or whatever. And there's a certain seaweed called purple laver, which is actually generally brown when we pick it up, but it turns this incredible purple color over time.
Okay.
So yeah, that's pretty cool.
And that doesn't need even any sunlight.
No.
So we kept one in a book from May to October, and in 5 months, it went from completely brown.
Because I was like, we're never going to sell that.
The brown, I like it personally because it looks a bit like copper or something.
Okay.
Like that. So you see that it's all about the taste and everything. So because we have our favorites and that are not necessarily the same.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
The transformation into purple is absolutely extraordinary. I have to say, this is something that we saw only with this seaweed. The others, they would need an external factor to change. Okay. So like sunlight or humidity or something like that. This one doesn't need anything. It's kept in a book, and it turns by itself from brown to purple, and it's some kind of
do you know
magic.
Why?
Not yet.
Further research required.
We have to do the research, because we are in contact from time to time to check our species identifications with someone from the University of Galway.
Okay.
So he's retired now, but he's absolutely passionate about seaweed. So maybe in the future, I will be able to tell you the answer.
The seaweed encyclopedia.
Yes, exactly.
Sure.
Yes, actually, that's something from Ireland, is that it's one of the best known and best studied shore in the world for seaweed.
Oh, really?
Yes. Ecology is actually quite strong in Ireland. Yes.
And it's kind of funny, like when I think of seaweed, like from when I was young, I'd be like, judging the seaweed because of what's in the seaweed, But like when I was looking at your prints, they were absolutely beautiful, and it's that transformation from something in my head, from something that I was like, what's in that, run around it, to something quite beautiful. And isn't that fantastic?
And this is what we're kind of hoping to do as well, is, make people aware that seaweed is a beautiful thing. And hopefully in the future it'll actually be a big part of our lives from a sustainability point of view, an environmental point of view.
That's something that is actually became a bit one of the goals, even if at the start we had no intention of changing the perception of seaweed. We didn't aim at changing the perception of seaweed, but we realized that there was a world behind seaweed so much bigger than what we do, both of us. We discovered, so we met last June the author of the Seaweed Revolution, Vincent Dumézel, and he's promoting seaweed all over the world as food and for bioplastics and for skincare, from so many different applications that were actually a discovery for us. And in that movement, because it's growing fast, there is an explosion of interest about seaweed. He and we think that art can really change the perception of seaweed from something that is a bit a disturbance of the beach. When you go swimming, you want to have the water a bit like a swimming pool, giant swimming pool for yourself. Yes, exactly. And in the end, we give a new perception.
Very good.
So it's not only a great art material, it's also a source of food that could solve a lot of issues.
Okay.
Because it doesn't need any fresh water. Because it doesn't need any fertilizer or pesticides and things like that. It is seen as a great complement of food. It's full of protein, it's full of nutrients, it's full of vitamins, it's full of iodine as well, so good for your thyroid. You can't eat too much of it, but it's seen as one of the great food of the future. It's sustainable to grow. In the whole process of promoting seaweed, art is a way to change the perception of seaweed. Why? Because when you want to make people eat seaweed, when you want to create a demand, the only thing is that it is seen at the moment by most of something a bit repulsive. So not only they don't want to swim next to it, but let alone
they don't want to eat it.
Want to eat it.
Well, I have eaten it. Yeah, I didn't mind it.
Oh, what did you try?
Dulse.
Oh, We tried that as well, and it's
kind of salty. It was kind of a salty kind of taste.
Exactly. So it has this umami taste that we as Europeans don't really have. We're not really used to it. It's more Asian taste. The whole goal is to promote a sustainable food. Try to make people used to the idea of this sustainable food. Try to introduce it in the plates of the people, and slowly, introduce it in our daily lives. And in this process, art can change the perception of seaweed as something beautiful, as something a bit more appetizing. And it is actually, like beautiful and appetizing. And we are only missing that. At the moment, the problem is that if the perception was a bit different, we would be already eating it, I think. It's like everything, like every culture has its food. So I'm French. Orla wouldn't eat maybe snails or something like that. And it's only cultural. I've eaten it when I was a kid, so I'm used to it. If you are used to eat seaweed when you're a kid, then you will eat it as you're an adult.
Yeah. So watch out the space for seaweed.
Yes. Like there are so many applications. And where we went, so this first algae awareness summit in Paris, we saw so many different applications. So there was bioplastic, bioplastic that disintegrates in 4 to 6 weeks. So that means you can use this plastic one. There was the demonstration a bit of you have your sauce, your olive oil or ketchup, or whatever you want in a small plastic bag like this that you can pour and eat. It's edible. It's actually something that they used already in the London Marathon.
Okay.
They replaced all the plastic cups by this bioplastics full of water.
Okay.
And basically, there was no waste.
Gosh, yeah.
So that was an incredible change. A whole event like this that usually you would find thousands plastic cups all over the place. Suddenly, puff, disappears.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's about, I suppose, from your point of view, about perception, but changing the perception of seaweed.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. So are there any particular techniques or methods you use to preserve the colour and texture of the seaweed in your artwork?
There actually isn't.
Nothing. It's just
it's
waiting.
Just, yeah, exactly. The colour is the seaweed's own. You know, we don't add anything. People are like, you know, is that the real colour? And we're like, yes, it is. Texture, the texture again is just the seaweed's own. We don't do anything to it.
Okay, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
The difficulty, I suppose, is to show in 2D what you have in 3D in the sea.
Yeah.
So we have to lay it out so that you can have the impression that you see the seaweed in the water a bit. And that sometimes we do, because it is in this oven tray that we talked before. It is a bit swimming in the oven tray. We, on the paper, sometimes it still looks like it's still floating. For the texture, I suppose, also just be very delicate, because you don't want to read. Some are extremely fragile. We have some of the seaweed have only one layer of cells.
Okay.
There is one called flat tongue weed, for instance. It's so fine that even when it's on the paper, when you pass your finger like this, it disappears completely. The texture it's almost as if it wasn't there. That's why people sometimes think it's a drawing or a painting. With these ones, you have to be extremely, extremely careful not to rip them off. Okay.
Does the end piece that you envisage dictate the type of pieces you forage?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Like, I suppose, as I was saying earlier, one of our favorites is red comb weed. Another one would be beautiful fanweed, and like they're kind of like the ones that we really look out for on the beach.
And are they common?
Well, I was actually foraging this morning and didn't come across a whole lot of either of them, to be honest. So definitely, I think there's certain times of the year that are better for certain seaweeds. There's one called sea beach, which can be really, really beautiful. It's like this vibrant pink, solid leaf, I suppose, for want of a better description. But that's kind of more the springtime of the year. You'd find better pieces. This time of the year as well, things have been battered about, you know, and looking a bit rough. So I didn't find exactly what I was looking for this morning. Somebody's commissioned us to do a piece.
Oh, lovely.
So I was looking for a particular species, all right, but I was told when I got home that this won't do.
Well, in that case, it's someone who wants to make a gift for a wedding. We have our way to do shapes and writings with seaweed as well. So we make special commissions sometimes. And the red comb weed, so it would be a very common seaweed. Actually, it's everywhere on the shore, but they are sometimes very difficult to spot.
Okay.
And that's because usually you would see the big brown ones, you know, the serrated racks. You would see the kelps. They are enormous, but you have to come and look closer. So in these big packs of serrated rack, you have to open them also a bit, you know.
Okay.
So you have to put your hands in the seaweed to discover them. That's our skincare.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't need any lodge in Spanish, Johnny. You've got your own little seaweed bath going on there. Very good. How do you see the connection between nature, sustainability, and your artwork?
The first connection with the nature and sustainability, I would say that in seaweed art, what we do is that we collect specimens that are washed off. So it's a bit like the old specimen, if you want, that are taken from the rocks and washed off on the beach. So basically, what they would do if we didn't use them, they would just decay in the water. So it is useful because the seaweed that are decaying as used as nutrients. They're transforming nutrients, but we collect only certain specimens and only in a certain state of their life.
Okay.
And the other thing is that even for the prints or the frames or like all the products that we made, we have a very low impact.
And the process itself, it's not all machines.
Exactly. That's another thing. Yes. We do everything by hand. There is no machine. It's elbow grease. So we have, next to zero impact, I would say.
And as well as through markets, you sell your products through local craft shops like Lacala, Arts and Domanway, Forest and Flock and Bantry. How important is establishing relationships with local shops, and do you hope to sell through more shops in the future?
It's quite important, and we have established like lovely relationships with the owners and managers of these shops, and they're actually really helpful. I suppose they give great feedback, and they kind of know what's what. They tell us straight out, look, this is going to work, this isn't going to work, you know, and they give us ideas. You know, it's one of our first shops, which unfortunately is no longer Well Design. Bonnie, the owner there, she was fantastic at the beginning of our business journey and really gave us lots of like invaluable advice. I suppose one of the main things was, you know, and I suppose this is true of all shops, is, you know, have your branding right. If you want to succeed, have that ready to go, have your story, you know, your backstory. People like that a lot. But yeah, I have to say we've had some lovely experiences with our shops, and of course we'd love to be in many more. But we're really happy at the moment with who we're stocked with. Okay. We're recently being stocked in Annabel Langrish's shop in Kinmare.
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
So we're quite excited about that one.
Very good.
Yeah.
And as a couple who recently set up your business, what have been the most important factors in getting your venture off the ground?
I suppose for us, really, it was our family and friends encouraging us.
Encouragement and support of everyone around us, yes. Like the family, indeed. Like Orla's father helped us to make the first presses.
Yes, he's very handy.
And to make some boards, to have them displayed, you know, in a beautiful way. That's really making a difference.
Yeah,
on the market.
Absolutely. And also just for letting us, I suppose, develop the business, because we're living with them at the moment, my mom and dad, and they've just been very patient, I suppose is the word. They're great for the feedback as well. And I suppose actually the local enterprise board has been great as well. We did the Start Your Own Business course with them, and they set us up with a mentor as well, who I suppose her field was the creative craft side. She was fantastic with her advice as well. That really, really helped us.
Okay. And how's it like working together as a couple?
That's pretty good. Yeah. We haven't had any major falling out yet.
We have a great team. We have a great team. Like we complete actually each other. Even if the creative process. Like when I do things, sometimes it will be someone taste, and when she does something, that will be someone else taste. So, for instance, Orla, she has this great instinctive way of making abstract pressings that are speaking to people.
And we kind of both have our jobs as well. Like, you know, when we're putting our prints together, or you know, like you'll do the printing and the cutting and the bits that I hate, basically, and I'll do the writing and the putting all the bits together, you know, like
basically it's like, I'll do the pieces I want to do and you can do the rest.
Exactly. Because like, again, like if I can avoid a computer, I'll do it at all costs as well. So
very good. You haven't killed each other yet, so that's a good thing.
It's always a good sign, yeah.
And what piece of advice would you give to anyone else deciding to set up in business?
I think you need to be passionate about what you're doing. because if that's not there, I don't think you'll last, maybe. And no, I know we're still very new, but we love what we're doing. And I suppose we're lucky that it does, bring us outdoors and you've all that side of it. But we still get excited, when we go to open the press, to see how it turns out. Like, I mean, it's not always great, but there's always a few good ones, but we still have that excitement, when we go to open the press. So I would say, you need to love what you're doing.
Okay.
And I suppose, again, the family and friends support is quite, I really value that.
Okay.
To have a good support system there.
Don't be afraid to try things, to go shake hands as well, because sometimes we only, went to a shop to say hello. And there was this one time we were coming back from Castleton-Beret. I see, the sign Adrigal Arts. Just out of curiosity, I enter the shop and then we talk and that's it. And that's how we enter the shop, really. Like sometimes you just need to say hello to people and they are actually very encouraging. So if you have something and you kind of think, oh, maybe people won't like that, just try it once, try it twice.
You don't ask.
Exactly. And we have had other experiences with shops who say no, and it's okay. Like we don't need to be necessarily everywhere. It has been a journey of rediscovering ourselves, because I was not the kind of man at all who would, go randomly to people and say, hi, I'm making this. Do you want it?
And
it's pushed you out of your comfort zone. But
and that's the worst thing they can say is no. And it's not the end of the world.
Try things with people, try things with your art, because we made also plenty of experiments. Some worked, some didn't. And in the end, we expanded so much the horizons of things that we did in the first place.
What are your future plans?
I suppose to steadily grow the business. I'd love to kind of explore the whole side of potentially using the seaweed prints on other textiles. So we're not exactly sure yet on which ones, but I'd love to use them in that way. I suppose stationery interests me quite a bit. But it's just to do the research. So that'd be a road that I'd like to go down.
There's a big, bold seaweed world out there, so that you
there
need to
is.
discover.
There is,
Yes.
And for us as a business, let's say, we really want to keep doing the workshops, because they're encouraging us as well to keep going with our art. We meet people who know nothing about seaweed, basically, like most of the time. I would say 9 out of 10 people know nothing about seaweed, and they go from the workshops knowing at least 3-4 names. They would recognize them on the beach. They would be able to press them. That's actually fantastic to see, how seaweed art could be expanded like this. So we really like to continue the workshop. We are actually going to do some in both Le Keiler Arts in Delmanway and in Annabelle Langrish in Ahakista. And we are trying new things as well, pressing wise. That's also an experiment.
Yes.
Only at the moment.
Okay. So, well, thank you so much, Orla and Armand, for taking the time to chat to us in Cork Creative. If you'd like to learn more about Farraige and their very unique pieces of local art, you can find links to them on our website, corkcreative.ie.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much.